Welcome back. We begin 2023 by exploring the controversies around safer nicotine products being researched in scientific journals. We also delve into disinformation campaigns. Please remember to stay tuned after this so that you can join the live discussion. The Untruth Initiative. The Truth Initiative was set up to address youth smoking. It was wildly successful with its original goal of reducing teen tobacco use in the United States. As of 2021, only 1.5% of middle and high schoolers were regular users of combustible tobacco. However, instead of celebrating the steep and consistent decline in teen tobacco use, they instead aimed their sights on vaping and nicotine.
Bloomberg Philanthropies revealed this morning that it's funding a new program aimed at ending the epidemic. The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids will coordinate the push.
Along with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, they expanded their focus outside of the United States.
What the Cabinet has given approval today is first a decision to ban e-cigarettes.
Specifically to low and middle income countries where the burden of unsafe tobacco use is highest.
No es posible que muchos países que están al otro lado del mundo.
Reports say a French tourist was deported out of Thailand for possession of an e-cigarette.
In my country, vaping is not legal.
To the dismay of many public health experts, Truth Initiative has become an implacable opponent of vaping and nicotine, promoting disinformation to create moral outrage and public fear of nicotine and vaping.
Vaping can expose you to toxic chemicals and kill you.
Nicotine from e-cigarettes is addictive and can cause brain damage and cancer.
Exposure to nicotine from e-cigarette vapor does in fact cause lung cancer.
Meanwhile, the youth nicotine vaping rate amongst 10th graders in the United States has declined from 28.7% in 2019 to 20% in 2020 and 14.2% in 2021. What are they saying?
They can cause poisoning, toxicity through inhalation, which can lead to seizures, trauma and burns.
The disinformation campaigns that have been launched by the Truth Initiative, along with its allies, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, Parents Against Vaping E-Cigarettes, the American Heart Association, the American Lung Association, and the American Cancer Society, go unchecked, as they are seen as experts in their field. But are they?
Are they safe? Are they not safe? In the headline this morning, they can cause cancer.
E-cigarettes are not safe.
So many lies, such as vaping is a gateway to smoking.
Teens who vape are more likely to be smoking cigarettes within a year.
Researchers found kids who experiment with vaping are much more likely to try smoking regular cigarettes.
As soon as I started vaping, I started having panic attacks. I thought it just affected your body and not your mindset.
It was making me feel less than who I was. My confidence was just dropping.
Vaping is the cause of teen depression.
Depression leads to vaping, and vaping increases depression symptoms over time.
Vaping can lead to memory issues as well as other mental and physical health problems.
Vaping will raise the risk of catching COVID and also making any infection more serious, some of which were contained in a study published by the Journal of Adolescent Health and made global headlines 2 years ago.
A new study reveals teenagers and young adults who vape may be 5 to 7 times more likely to get the virus.
The authors, after being called up by public health experts on the problems with the study, later clarified by saying, "Our study does not imply causality."
We know that e-liquids contain substances that are carcinogenic.
There are beginning to be molecular genetic studies showing that e-cigarettes turn on cancer-causing genes.
In the recent retraction of an article published in February 22 in the World Journal of Oncology, which claimed that nicotine vapors face the same cancer risk as cigarette smokers, the editors explained that concerns have been raised regarding the article's methodology, source data processing, including statistical analysis, and reliability of conclusions. The authors failed to provide justified explanations and evidence for the inquiries. Subsequently, this article has been retracted at the request of the editor-in-chief. Then there is the previous 2020 retraction of an article by Stanton Glantz in the Journal of the American Heart Association that falsely claimed vaping doubled the risk of heart attacks. This study, however, is still listed on the WHO FCTC website as a reference to guidelines regarding electronic cigarettes. Why does it matter? It matters because the WHO has used studies from the detractors, specifically the retracted Glantz article, as justification for their guidance to member countries to restrict, ban, or severely limit access to safer nicotine products. Sally Sattel, a psychiatrist and fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, stated, "We are not talking misinformation, we are talking disinformation. This is a willful misrepresentation of facts." David Abrams, a professor of public health at New York University, said, "They have spun and ignored science to cherry-pick only information and data that supports the ideology of prohibition." How is it being addressed by public health harm reduction advocates? Clive Bates, in his most recent article entitled Bad Science, questions, what is bad science and why is there so much of it? It has hit the nail on the head. He states, "I believe the answer lies in the incentives of those doing the science. Major U.S. federal research funders are aiming for a world free of tobacco use, which also means free of nicotine use. Tobacco regulatory science funded by regulators will be inclined to find justifications for regulation and intervention, not liberalization. There could also be deeper drivers. Without the significant harms of smoking, there isn't much justification for the whole field of tobacco control. Perhaps the emergence of a much safer smoke-free nicotine product threatens livelihoods, careers, and entire university departments. And bad science is the reaction." John Oyston, a retired anesthesiology and tobacco harm reduction expert advocate from Canada, has written extensively on the issue. In his latest blog post about tobacco control and safer nicotine products, he states, "It is time to move away from shaming and blaming smokers and away from stigmatizing nicotine use. It is more than time to address the issue with empathy and make reducing the use of combustible tobacco the priority, not the use of nicotine. As part of this, there is no one-size-fits-all, and choice access to different types of safer nicotine products is what will finally, effectively reduce the use of combustible tobacco." How do we counter the disinformation? The war against tobacco has morphed into the war against nicotine. It has nothing to do with the truth, nor does it have anything to do with science, evidence, or public health. It is up to us to make a huge effort to educate our local officials, WHO delegates, and the public of the facts and evidence that is based on sound scientific method and statistical information. The detractors of nicotine and the messengers of disinformation. Theirs is self-interest. Ours is public health. Remember, stay tuned and join the live discussion.